Welcome to the 166th episode of YFTT Tech Talks for Engineers by Engineers. I'm Prem Kumar, a technical evangelist at Yugabyte. For those who attend YFTTs regularly, today's presenter is no stranger. I have been trying very hard for a long time to get him to do a talk here. As a member of our star-studded field team, he knows the product in and out and works closely with customers to make YugabyteDB work the best for their use cases. He's on my go-to list for many of the issues related to YugabyteDB. So he's going to share with us some tips and tricks around using YugabyteDB that he has used that would be helpful to us all. Jim Nicely for you folks. Over to you, Jim.
Sure. Thank you, Prem. So my name is Jim Nicely. I've been with Yugabyte for a little over 2 years. I'm on the field team, like you said, and I do a lot of POCs, and I work a lot with our customers, our current customers, to help them out, and then work with new prospects. So what I did was I created this website called YugabyteDB.Tips, and it's kind of a carryover from my previous job. I kind of did the same thing there for a couple of years, so I wanted to carry it over to my new position here at Yugabyte. And basically, all it is just it's a website that has these quick tips, right? It's not like really long blogs or anything like that. They're just like things that I've come across, or it's typically derived from customer interaction or prospect interaction, or colleagues have questions, and I just figure, if someone has a question, someone else is going to have a question, so why not kind of put it somewhere where everyone can get to it? And so it's just, here's the website location. It's YugabyteDB.Tips. And it's also Yugabyte.Tips, and then here's a QR code you can use to get there. So I started here in February 2022. So this is the first tip was March 14th, and as of right now, there's 168 tips out there. So the website looks like this. I just want to keep it really simple, no big graphics or anything like that. There's 5 tips per page, and they're ordered by the submission date. Up here on the top, there's a featured videos link that you can go to, where I have links to all the YFTTs. So it's like a one-stop shop to get to. There's many ways to get to them, but these all point to our YFTTs. And then if you want to look something up real quick, you can just go to the keyword search. Like if you wanted to find something on how to generate random data, you can just go type random and do search. And then down here, some quick links to Yugabyte content. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to go through some of my some of the tips, just one by one, no particular order, and just kind of have some fun. Get you guys a feeling of what's on the website in case you wanted to go. So the first thing we got to do is to create a cluster, and this is one of the tips. And every page is going to have a QR code down here that you can use your phone to go ahead, and it'll take you right to the tip on the web page. But the first tip is like YugabyteD is a great tool that I use all of the time. It's our open source kind of tool that it's going to manage the T server and the master servers for you. So it makes standing up a cluster really easy, especially if you want to test a new version of Yugabyte and try to test out features. So like just for instance, like for this tip, I'm going to be testing read committed, right? It's a new isolation level. And then, so what I've done already over here is I have a script, and when you go to the tip site, it'll show you what's in this script. Basically, I'm creating a 9-node cluster. I've already run this to save some time. It takes about 15 seconds to stand up, but it just loops through. I have a list of IP addresses, so it's going to create my cluster on 9 nodes, and you'll notice these are all kind of loopback addresses. So it's one of the cool features is I can stand up a 9-node cluster on a single host. So this is actually running in a cloud server that I have. So I'm kind of mimicking 9 nodes of Yugabyte, right? And it could survive a region outage. Not really a region outage because it's on a single host, but I can do testing like that where I can shut down nodes that are in a region. So that's what makes it kind of fun, YugabyteD. So that's how that works. And then, I need to run this setup script down here so to save us some time. So I'll just, here's a quick tip too. So one thing I always do is I always have an alias for calling Yugabyte YSQLSH. That is our command line utility. So now I'm going to run the script that's creating a bunch of tables and stuff for the demo piece. So while that's running, let's go to the next tip. So this is actually the very first tip that I mentioned. Someone asked me like, what version of Yugabyte am I running? And I wasn't even sure of the answer, so I kind of had to look it up. And then I figured, there's going to be a ton of people out there who are going to have the same kind of questions. So that's what I mean. The tips are really easy and small. So basically, it's just server version, and you'll get this back. So it kind of shows you this is the Postgres 11.2 is our Postgres compatibility level, and then the actual version of Yugabyte is this piece right here. So I think the next tip was expanding a little bit more, where I kind of just wanted to know the Yugabyte version, right? I didn't care about the Postgres version. So what I did was there was no function for that. So in Yugabyte, since we're Postgres based, right, we can create stored procedures. So I just created a stored procedure called YB version that runs the select statement, which is just doing a regular expression on a built-in function called server version to return the actual just the Yugabyte version. And the best way to show that is through an example. So cut and paste, come over here. Okay, so this select version is a built-in function. Again, it's going to return this really long string. I just care about this piece of it, so that's why I wrote this function called YB version here that pulls out just the version of Yugabyte. So go ahead.
I have one quick thing. So I have used these things, use your tips. I found another thing that was a little bit hacky. So if you just type \set, it just prints out all the set variables in alphabetical order. And because version is at the end, it just shows the version right there. So
Yeah, right here.
so that's what typically I use because
Okay.
it's easier to remember and do
Yeah.
execute fast.
This is the Postgres version.
So just above that, you have the version.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. That's cool.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I think that can be a tip. Okay. So this one's one of my favorites. And this comes from like a long time ago. I was back when I used to work with Oracle, and I was working with an Oracle consultant, and I was just learning Oracle at the time, and we were creating schemas here and there and doing all kinds of work, creating a new database for a customer. And there was a point where we had to drop a bunch of tables. So I'm sitting there typing in, drop table A, drop table B, drop table C, and the guy says to me, "Why don't you just have the database generate the DDL for you?" And I wasn't sure what he was talking about, and that's how I kind of learned this tip was, if you're lazy like me, you can simply have the database generate DDL. So in this example down here, there's a schema called some schema. There's a bunch of tables in there, and I want to drop only the tables that start with this prefix some table, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if sorry, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. So I have these tables in here. I just want to delete the ones that start with some table. So I can run this command here. That's going to generate the drop table commands. And what it's doing, it's selecting from PG tables, which is a catalog table that has all of the tables, but I have a where, the schema is the schema I'm looking for, and the table name's like what I'm looking for. It's only going to generate these drop commands. And then what I could do is I can cut and paste this and then run these, but that's easy if I only had 10 rows, but I could have thousands of rows. So Postgres and Yugabyte have a great feature called \gexec, and what that'll do is it'll run the commands that are in the buffer. So that ran my delete statements for me. So now when I do this, I'm only left with my one table. So that's that's like super handy.
That's very cool. Very cool. Very helpful.
Okay, so moving on. This one's kind of neat. The idea here is I have two tables, one called names, one called names two. And then names has some data in there, and I want to move only a couple of the names to another table. So typically, if you think about it, what you're going to do is you're just going to do an insert into the new table as a select from the old table, and then do a delete from the old table. But actually, you can actually do it all in one step really easily with this with command right here. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I just do a select asterisk from names, I'll see all these names in there. Names2 doesn't have anything. So when I run this command here, it's actually the with part actually has the delete in it. So that's the neat part here is like a with doesn't have to be just a select. It could be an insert or an update or a delete, which is kind of weird, right? So actually I'm going to delete 2 names, but I'm going to return it. It's using a returning clause here to return the name and then push that into the insert statement. So when I do that and then I select, you'll notice that Jim and Alex are now gone and Jim and Alex were moved over to names2. So that's that one.
That's pretty cool. Also, we have a question from one of our users, John. He has asked, Postgres is on version 16 and you are demoing on 11.2. So our current immediate version compatibility is 11.2. So we are going to announce full compatibility for PG15 in about 2 weeks. So please, I think the YFTT is scheduled for May 3rd, if I remember right. But so that's for you, John. So it's been a long running project for us, and we are all ready to announce it. So.
Yeah, yeah, I've been looking forward to that one. So we are on 11.2, but you know we're compatible, and then 15 is coming, so that's great news. So moving forward, so Yugabyte's a cluster of nodes, right? So we could have 1 node or 1,000 nodes. So to get a list of the actual nodes that you're in your cluster, there's this cool function called YB servers. So you just have to do a select asterisk from YB servers. This is actually a table function that's going to return what looks like a table, right? So it's going to have columns in it, and the columns I typically look at are the host name, which is going to be the IP address, and then cloud, region, and zone. These are the 3 pieces that define fault domains within Yugabyte. So these are the important columns. So cloud, you'll see the way I set up my simple cluster here. But instead of like you're going to run this query a lot. So what I did was I typically create a view, right, that actually just pulls out these columns because there's other columns I don't care about. So I always like to have this view. So if you just do a select asterisk from YB servers, it's going to bring back. Remember, I had 9 nodes, and I'm simulating that I'm in AWS. You can actually, when you're using YugabyteD, this could be anything, right? It could be GCP. It's whatever I tell it is. So for testing, I'm just pretending like I'm in AWS but this cloud server isn't even in AWS, it's some other cloud vendor. But so it just shows, here's the columns I talk about: the host, the cloud, the region, and zone. Keep them this number of connections, like you kind of ignore that. That's not even populated, so it's always going to be 0. But that's why I have this view. Like it's just something, might be something you want to consider having. It just makes it a lot easier than having to select from just these columns all the time. So that, wrong way. Okay. So another, like I said, like a lot of times, a lot of these tips come from questions I get from people. And one of the customers, we were on the call, I remember being on the call, he's like, what's the maximum number of columns that you guys support? And I didn't know the answer to it, but when we were on a call, I wrote this statement to actually test to see where it's going to fail. So this is kind of, again, this is SQL generating SQL. Here, this !exclamation is a way from in YSQLSH to run a command outside. So I'm actually calling YSQLH from YSQLH and executing this command here that's actually building a create table statement. So I'm creating a table and then using this generate series built-in function. So it's going from 1 to 100,000, and that just generates a series of integers from 1 to 100,000. So this is actually generating a giant create table with 100,000 column names. But when you run it, you'll see I'll show you what happens. And how I got the answer to the customer's question was a table can have a max of 1,600 columns. So the point of this tip was to see how cool SQL generating SQL is, but also to think outside of the box. like if you have questions about the limitations, of a database and you can't find the answer, sometimes you can, push it to its limits, and it'll tell you in an error statement saying, "Oh, I can't do that." So now you know your limit. But that's actually in the documentation now too. So, this tip is not really a tip. It's just more like every April 1st, I put like an April Fool's kind of joke in there, and that's what this one kind of was. And there's this program called CalSay. If you've been around for as long as I have, like you'll recognize CalSay. Basically, it's a neat little fun tool on Linux that if you pipe information into it, it'll print out an ASCII cow, and then the cow will say whatever you tell it to say. So, like with every database I work with, back from Oracle and MySQL, everything that runs on Linux, whatever. So I just play with this and just for fun, right? And this is just an example of having a cow say something. And let me show you what this cow says. Go back here. I know this is just for fun, so. And so what all it's doing is it's selecting from I have a table called CalSpeak that has this information in it, and it pipes it through CalSay. Again, this backslash exclamation point means I'm running YSQLH and then just running this command. So just this is a good joke for your kids. A counter earthquake is called a milkshake. So yeah.
Hey, Jim, I have a quick question. So in most of your examples, you use 127.002. Is that a reason? I mean, instead of 001?
Because my cluster doesn't have a 001.
Interesting.
And the reason it's like that, I'll show you. Servers, Control A, host. Actually, I have YugabyteDB.Tech, which is a public IP address. So that's the neat thing is like these are all private, but this is public. So I have one public and all private. And the reason I have
it's a very cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I have public is so I can get to the UI, which I'll show you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Actually,
hey, so we have a question from Juan on how long did it take to get the answer on max columns? So over to you, Jim.
Oh, how long did it take? It took this long.
So basically, just error out quickly.
Yeah.
Of course, it took him some time to actually write the SQL.
Oh, to write the SQL, yeah. Oh, before we go on, like this is super helpful. So if you're in YSQL all the time, there's a cool. You can just do \exclamation again to run a command. Here I'm running the Linux command clear, right? So that works in Linux, but it also works in YSQL sh to clear your screen, so you can clean it up really quickly. What's next here? Oh, yeah. So remember, we're a cluster of nodes, right? So you're going to connect to a node, and if you manually connect to a node, you know what it is. But if you come from something that's load balancing you don't know what node you're connected to. But there's a nice function called inet_server_address that will show you the actual node you're connected to. And let's go take a look at what it looks like. Ooh, wrong way. So I'm connected to node. This is the public IP address I was talking about. And then, in this case, I'm doing \exclamation running YSQLH, giving it the host.4. So I should see .4. Yeah. So it tells you whatever one you're connected to. Sorry, guys. Keep going the wrong way. Okay. Cool. We're good.
So time check. We have 10 minutes.
Oh wow. Okay. I'll keep on going, and then we run out of time.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So null values in whenever you're in YSQLH. If you have a null value in a table and you do a select on the screen, it's hard to tell if it's a null or if it's an empty string because they both look exactly the same. But there's a nice command called pset_null where I can actually say if it's null, print out this instead. So it kind of looks like this. So if I do a select from data, these are actually null values, but I don't know if that's null or if that's empty string. So if I do backslash p set null, and I'm saying, this could be any string you want it to be, but now I'm just saying null. So when I run that same query, you'll see it shows up like this. And this is sometimes nicer for reports, right? You don't want that to show up for reports. You want something a little cleaner.
Yeah. So one thing. So to persist it across multiple sessions, you have to edit your PLSQL RC, right?
Correct.
To store it. And one other tidbit is, I actually have this setting on my RC file, and I was showing some output to a coworker, and then they noticed that nulls were showing in a different way, and then we thought that it was a bug because I had completely forgotten that nulls were displayed in a different fashion on my terminal. So please remember that.
On the theme of nulls, this is kind of interesting. So if you're a DBA or a developer, you know what a null is. Null is absence of a value. So does a null equal null? In most cases, the null equals null. If you do that, it'll say null because there's no answer to that question. But there's a feature called transforms underscore null underscore equals that if you turn that on, then null will equal null. And here's an example of that. So I'm turning this feature on, and so if I say select null equals null, it now comes back with true. And it's the same if I null equals 1 is going to be false in that case. And if I turn this back off, in that case, we're back to normal. See now it's printing out null. So you might ask, what was the purpose of this? And this is here because there are certain applications that were written that doesn't account for this, right? They don't, if they're comparing null to something, they don't want it to be null. They want it to be false. So that's why it's there. So it depends on your application. It's more for backward compatibility. So it's nice that that's in Yugabyte because I actually had one customer who needed that. So this is back keeping on the nulls. This is something that was unexpected to me because I come from an Oracle background. So if you have a unique index on a column in Yugabyte, you can actually insert more than one null. So that might be good or might be bad depending on your use case and what you want. But if you don't want that to happen, if you only want to allow one null in a column that has an index, here's a simple trick to do that. So I'm creating a table called sum table. I have 2 columns. This column here has a unique constraint. In C2, it doesn't have anything, but I'm going to create this index here. And then this is the weird part. So it only has a value of 1. So this is almost like a function-based index, but it's also a partial index. So Yugabyte supports partial indexes where you say a where clause. So here I'm saying where C2 is null. So whenever this is null, this partial index will be populated, and it's a unique index. So it's only going to be allowed to insert one value of 1. So that's kind of how this works. And let me show you with 2 inserts. Let's clear the screen. Oops. Okay, so notice in this case, I'm able to this is column C1. It has a yeah. So this is where it's going to fail, right? So this has a unique constraint on it. So notice I can install 2. I can actually install null values, which you might not want. So what you have to do is, in this case, I don't want to be able to insert 2 nulls in C2, so I create that index, and it's going to fail because it can't insert more than 1 null. But actually, behind the scenes, I'm inserting 1, the number 1. So that's kind of
interesting. Hey, we have one question from Juan. Is there a file or a web page with all these tricks? So I think you have to reintroduce.
Yeah, it's YugabyteTips, YugabyteDB.Tips. YugabyteDB.Tips. It's his website, yeah.
And he also shows the QR code for each of the tip. You can just scan your mobile.
Scan right here.
Yeah. Cool.
Going on. Oh boy, yeah, we're gonna run out of time.
Yeah.
You're right about the time. Okay.
I told you.
That's okay. Let's just real quickly. So if you want to know when your node started, there's a cool function called PG postmaster start time, right? So I'm I'm connected to node 1, and I run this command. This is when we started the node a little while ago. If you want to know how long your node's been up, you just simply take now minus that start time, right? So it gives, we've been going for 34 minutes. And then real quickly, okay, that's fine for one node, but what if I wanted to look at all my nodes? And here's a trick down the bottom to do that. So this will actually show me the start time of every single node in my cluster. So,
awesome.
If we're running out of time.
Yeah, we can do one more tip. We are almost just 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. And then
that's a good one.
pick a good one.
Oh, okay. That's two real quick. Okay, so sorry. So this guy here. So I was a big Oracle guy, right? So when I came over to start using Postgres and Yugabyte, it was a little bit hard because it didn't have a lot of the functions that are in Oracle. But there's a cool extension called Aura FCE that you can install. Once you install it, it gives you access to Oracle functions. Like one of my favorites is called Next Day. And what that means is you can give it a date and it'll give you the next Friday, for instance, right? So I'm always looking forward to Friday. So I'm running this query all the time. But so this will actually work. So when I install the extension, this query will now work. Here it's going to fail. But what I wanted to show you is this. Like, so you might be wondering, like, what are all of the functions and things that you get from installing a extension? And this is go ahead.
The previous one.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry, guys. I'm clicking on the wrong screen. This is 21. Let me get down. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Let me cut and paste this query. Come back over here. So let me quickly clear. Yeah. So now when I run this is neat. So this is going to show me every single stored procedure that I get from installing this Aura FCE. And this is really neat, right? So
this is actually very cool. Will be very useful. So.
Oh yeah. So every and keep on going. Sorry. One more thing. If I do a \dx, I can see the extensions I've installed. So you can actually do this with all the extensions to see what.
So will it autocomplete? Will the extensions function named autocomplete or FCE dot something? Will it complete like interpreter command? Like, or is that the function the only way to list all the?
Oh yeah. The only way, you mean the list of? Oh, it might. Let me see. Like if I do next, no, it doesn't. Yeah. So if I wanted to do if I wanted to try next day, it won't autocomplete. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Nice. Yeah, we are almost at time. 9:59. Maybe any questions, folks?
So there's a bunch more.
Anyway.
So. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. He has a lot of tips, so you can visit our his website, YugabyteDB.Tips, and that's been very useful for many of us here. And as I said, he's one of my go-to people for anything Yugabyte. So if you have any further questions, please reach out to us on public Slack or check out our code base on GitHub. Hope you all have a great day. Over to you, Jim.
Thanks everyone. So if you go to the Slack channel, and if you want to post your own tips or something like that, I'll pick them up and I'll add them to the tip site, and I'll gladly give you guys. I'll give you guys credit for the.
Jim is very active on the public Slack, so you can reach out to him directly there. So, okay. All right, cool, man. So we'll wait for a minute for any questions. All right. But if that looks like we don't have any questions. All right, folks, have a great day.